When I got into a car accident, I spent 3 nights in the hospital alone. My parents never visited. Instead, my sister posted a photo online, finally some peace without her. I stayed silent. A week later, still sore and bandaged, I woke up to 53 missed calls and a message from Mom, "Your sister's in trouble. We need you now." I just sat there, staring at the screen. I never thought I'd be writing this story, but after everything that's happened, I need to get it off my chest. Some of you might think I went too far, but honestly, I don't care anymore. My name is Sarah, I'm 28, and I've always been the black sheep of my family. My parents, Robert and Linda, made it pretty clear from childhood that my older sister Jessica was their golden child. Jessica could do no wrong, she was the cheerleader, the homecoming queen, the one who married her high school sweetheart and gave them grandchildren. Me? I was the difficult one who chose college over marriage, who moved across the country for my career in software development, who didn't call home every single day. But I still love them. That's the part that hurts the most. 3 weeks ago, I was driving home from work on a rainy Thursday evening when some idiot ran a red light and T-boned my Honda Civic. I remember the sound of screeching brakes, the sickening crunch of metal, and then nothing. I woke up in the emergency room with a concussion, 3 broken ribs, a fractured wrist, and more bruises than I could count. The first thing I did was call my parents. Through tears and pain medication fog, I told my mom what happened. Her response? "Oh honey, that's terrible. But Jessica's having a dinner party tonight for Brad's promotion, and we're already here. Can we call you tomorrow?" Tomorrow came and went. So did the day after that. I spent 3 nights in that sterile hospital room, staring at the ceiling and listening to the beeping machines. Nurses kept asking if anyone was coming to visit, if I needed them to call someone. I made excuses: "They're busy, they live far away, they'll be here soon." The lies tasted bitter in my mouth. My coworker Mike was the only person who visited. He brought me magazines and terrible hospital cafeteria coffee, and when I finally broke down crying, he held my hand and told me it would be okay. A virtual stranger showed me more kindness than my own family. On my second night, when the pain medication made it hard to sleep, I mindlessly scrolled through Facebook. That's when I saw it. Jessica had posted a photo of herself lounging in their parents' backyard with a glass of wine, captioned, "Finally some peace without her," wine glass emoji, sparkles emoji, #blessed, #sisterfree, #familytime. The comments were even worse. My Aunt Patricia had liked it. My cousin Mark had commented "Lamau finally." Even some of Jessica's friends who barely knew me had piled on with laughing emojis. I screenshotted everything. I don't know why, maybe some part of me already knew I'd need evidence later. I was discharged on Friday with a list of medications, physical therapy appointments, and strict instructions to take it easy for at least 2 weeks. I called an Uber to take me home to my empty apartment, where I spent the weekend alternating between crying and staring blankly at Netflix. Monday morning, I dragged myself to work despite feeling like I'd been hit by a truck, which, technically, I had been. My manager, Jennifer, took one look at me and sent me home, but not before I'd finished the client presentation I'd been working on before the accident. The presentation was for Morrison Tech, a major account worth about $2.3 million to our company. That evening, my phone rang. It was my mom. "Sarah, honey, how are you feeling?" she asked, as if she just remembered I existed. "I've been better," I said flatly. "Well, that's good to hear. Listen, I'm calling because we need your help with something. It's about Jessica." Of course it was. "What about Jessica?" "She's in some trouble at work. You know how she is with computers and technical things. She accidentally deleted some important files and her boss is furious. She might get fired. We were hoping you could help fix it." I almost laughed. "Almost. I'm still recovering from a car accident, Mom. You know, the one where I spent 3 nights alone in the hospital?" "Oh, that. Well, you're fine now, aren't you? This is really important, Sarah. Jessica has a mortgage and 3 kids. She can't afford to lose this job." That's when something inside me snapped. "I'll think about it," I said, and hung up. But I wasn't thinking about helping Jessica. I was thinking about that screenshot, about those 3 lonely nights, about the word sister-free burning in my memory. The next morning, I woke up to 53 missed calls. 53. My phone had been on silent, and apparently, Jessica's situation had escalated overnight. The messages were increasingly frantic. "Mom, Sarah, please call us back. It's urgent. Dad, your sister really needs your help. Family first. Jessica, Sarah, I know we haven't talked, but I really need you right now. Please. Mom again, Sarah, where are you? We're all at Jessica's house trying to figure this out. And then the message that made me see red. Mom, your sister's in trouble. We need you now. Need me now. Not we hope you're healing well, or we're sorry we weren't there for you. They needed me now. I got dressed slowly, each movement sending shooting pains through my ribs. I drove to Jessica's house, a beautiful colonial in the suburbs that my parents had helped her buy. The same house where they'd spent countless weekends helping with renovations while I was working 60-hour weeks to pay off my student loans. The whole family was there when I arrived. Mom, Dad, Jessica, her husband Brad, even my grandparents. They looked relieved to see me, like the cavalry had finally arrived. Sarah, thank God, Jessica said, rushing over to hug me. I stepped back, and she paused, noticing the brace on my wrist and the way I was still moving carefully. What exactly is the problem? I asked. Jessica's face crumpled. I was trying to clean up some files on the server at work, and I accidentally deleted the entire client database. Everything. 5 years of customer information, contracts, everything. My boss says if I can't fix it by tomorrow, I'm fired. And they might sue me for damages. What kind of database? It's some SQL thing? I don't know. The IT guy quit last month and they haven't replaced him yet. They put me in charge of basic maintenance, but I have no idea what I'm doing. I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. Do you have backups? That's the thing, Brad jumped in. The backup system has been broken for months. The IT guy kept saying he'd fix it, but then he left. I sat down at Jessica's kitchen table, wincing as my ribs protested. Let me see what we're dealing with. For the next hour, I listened as Jessica explained the mess she'd created. She'd been trying to delete some old test records and had somehow managed to drop the entire customer table. No backups. No transaction logs. Nothing. How much is this database worth to the company? I asked. Everything, Jessica whispered. Without those customer records, they'll lose millions in contracts. They're already talking about bankruptcy. The family was watching me expectantly. My parents had that look they'd always had when they needed me to fix something, grateful but entitled, like it was my job to clean up everyone else's messes. I can fix this, I said finally. The relief in the room was palpable. But I have some conditions. The room went quiet. First, I want a written apology from Jessica for that Facebook post. A public one. Jessica's face went white. What Facebook post? I pulled out my phone and showed her the screenshot. Her mouth fell open. Sarah, I can explain. Second, I want apologies from everyone who liked or commented on that post. Public apologies. Sarah, that's a bit much, Dad started. Third, I continued, I want Mom and Dad to explain to me exactly why they couldn't visit their daughter in the hospital, but they could attend a dinner party. Now see here, Dad's voice was getting angry. And finally, I stood up slowly, letting the dramatic pause hang in the air. I want Jessica to tell everyone exactly what kind of peace she was enjoying while I was lying in a hospital bed. The room exploded. Sarah, this is ridiculous. Mom's voice was shrill. You can't hold her job hostage over a silly social media post. Dad added. It wasn't silly to me, I said quietly. I was alone, in pain, scared, and the people who were supposed to love me were celebrating my absence. Jessica was crying now. Sarah, I was drunk and I was venting. You know how you always make family gatherings tense. How do I make them tense? You're always so political. And you judge us for our choices. You act like you're better than us because you have some fancy job. I stared at her. Political? You mean like when I said maybe we shouldn't vote for politicians who want to take away women's health care? Or when I suggested that maybe treating service workers with respect was important? See? You're doing it right now. Jessica, I said, my voice deadly calm, I have never, ever posted anything celebrating your absence from my life. I have never liked a comment mocking you. I have never thrown a party because you weren't there. The room went silent. I can fix your database, I continued. I can probably have it restored by tonight. But first, I need to know that you understand exactly how much you hurt me. Jessica was sobbing now. I'm sorry, okay? I'm sorry. I'll delete the post, I'll apologize, whatever you want. Just please help me. The post is already deleted, I said. I checked this morning. But the internet is forever, Jessica. Just like this conversation, I pulled out my phone again. I've been recording this whole thing. The color drained from everyone's faces. Sarah, you can't, Mom started. Can't what? Can't protect myself? Can't document my family's behavior? You're right, I probably can't use this recording for anything legal. But I can sure as hell post it online. I looked around the room at their horrified faces. Here's what's going to happen. Jessica, you're going to write a sincere, public apology on Facebook. You're going to explain exactly what you did wrong and why it was hurtful. You're going to tag everyone who liked or commented on that post and ask them to apologize too. And if I don't? I shrugged. Then you can explain to your boss tomorrow why their database is still empty. And maybe I'll have a new viral TikTok about family loyalty. You're being vindictive, Dad said. Am I? Or am I finally standing up for myself? You know, Dad, I've spent my entire adult life trying to earn your approval. Trying to be good enough. But I'm done. I turned to my mom. And you, Mom? You raised me to believe that family comes first. That we're supposed to take care of each other. So why didn't that apply when I needed you? Mom's eyes filled with tears. We thought you were fine. You were always so independent, so strong. I'm strong because I had to be. Because you taught me that I couldn't count on anyone else. But being strong doesn't mean I don't need people sometimes. The room was silent except for Jessica's sniffling. I'll write the apology, she said quietly. Good. I also want you to make a donation to the local hospital's family support fund. $1,000. 1,000, Brad started. The same amount you spent on that dinner party, I said. The one that was more important than visiting me. How do you know how much we spent? Mom asked. Jessica posted the receipts on Instagram. The prime rib, the wine, the decorations. All of it. I sat back down, ignoring the pain in my ribs. Here's the thing, family. I can fix Jessica's problem. I'm very good at what I do, better than any IT guy you could hire on short notice. I can probably recover 90% of that database using some forensic techniques I learned in my fancy job. So you'll help? Jessica asked hopefully. I'll help. But things are going to be different from now on. Different how? Dad asked suspiciously. I'm done being the family scapegoat. I'm done being the one you call only when you need something fixed. I'm done pretending that your behavior is acceptable just because we share DNA. I stood up again. Jessica, send me the server details. I'll work on it tonight. But after this, we're going to have new boundaries. Real ones. What kind of boundaries? Mom asked. The kind where if you want me in your life, you treat me with the same respect you'd show a stranger. The kind where if you're going to criticize my choices, you better be prepared to defend your own. I headed toward the door. And if you ever celebrate my absence again, you'll find out exactly how sister-free your life can be. I left them sitting there in stunned silence. That night, I sat in my apartment staring at Jessica's laptop for a long time before I even opened it. My ribs ached, my wrist throbbed, and I was exhausted from the emotional confrontation. Part of me wanted to just let Jessica face the consequences of her actions. After all, she'd celebrated my absence, maybe it was time she experienced what life was actually like without me. But that's not who I wanted to be. I opened the laptop and dove into the database corruption. It was even worse than I'd initially thought. Jessica hadn't just deleted records, she'd somehow managed to corrupt the primary key relationships, scramble the indexing, and create circular references that made the entire system unstable. It was like trying to unscramble an egg. I called my former colleague Marcus, who specialized in database forensics for law enforcement. It was 11 p.m., but Marcus was a night owl like me. Sarah? What's up? Haven't heard from you since you moved. I need a favor, Mark. Big one. I explained the situation, leaving out the family drama and focusing on the technical challenge. Marcus whistled low when I described the extent of the corruption. That's not just user error, he said. That's like weapons-grade incompetence. How did she even manage to access the primary key tables? Apparently they made her the interim IT administrator after their guy quit. They put someone with no database training in charge of a production SQL server? What could possibly go wrong? Can you help me fix it? I can try. Send me the database file and I'll see what I can recover. But Sarah, this might be beyond saving. Sometimes corruption goes so deep that it's easier to rebuild from scratch. I sent him the files and kept working on my own recovery attempts. By 2 a.m., I'd managed to restore about 60% of the customer records, but the relationships between tables were still broken. Customer orders weren't linking to customer accounts, invoices weren't connecting to payment records. It was a mess. Marcus called me back at 3 a.m. "Good news and bad news," he said. "Good news is I can recover about 90% of the core data. Bad news is it's going to take me at least 2 full days of work, and I'm going to have to rebuild the entire relational structure from scratch." "How much would you normally charge for something like this?" "Emergency database recovery? Probably 25 grand, minimum. But for you? How about dinner and an explanation of how your sister managed to destroy a database this thoroughly?" "Marcus, I can't ask you to work for free." "You're not asking. I'm offering. Besides, this is the most interesting challenge I've seen in months. It's like a puzzle made of pure chaos." We worked together through the night, sharing screens and troubleshooting the most complex corruption issues. Marcus was brilliant at this kind of work. He'd once recovered data from a server that had been hit by lightning and then flooded. Jessica's database was child's play compared to that. By dawn, we had a plan. Marcus would handle the deep forensic recovery while I rebuilt the user interface and business logic layer. Working together, we could have the system fully operational in 3 days, not the overnight miracle Jessica was hoping for, but realistic given the scope of the damage. I finally crawled into bed at 6 a.m., setting my alarm for noon. I had to work on my own projects today, but I could spare a few more hours for Jessica's crisis. When I woke up, I had 7 missed calls from my family and dozens of text messages. Jessica had followed my advice and called her boss to explain the real scope of the problem. Apparently, it hadn't gone well. "Jessica, he's furious. Says I should have told him the truth from the beginning." "Mom, can't you work faster? Jessica might lose her house if she gets fired." "Dad, your sister is beside herself. How much longer is this going to take?" "Jessica again, my boss wants to know if you're actually qualified to handle something this complex. He's talking about hiring a professional firm." That last message made me laugh out loud. I forwarded Marcus's credentials to Jessica, PhD in computer science from MIT, 15 years of experience in digital forensics, consultant for 3 federal agencies. If that didn't qualify as professional, I didn't know what would. I also sent her a detailed technical report explaining exactly what had gone wrong and how we were fixing it. Let her boss try to find someone more qualified than Marcus. Around 2 p.m., Jessica called me directly. "Sarah, I'm scared," she said without preamble. "My boss is talking about criminal charges. He says what I did might constitute sabotage or gross negligence." "Did you intentionally corrupt the database?" "Of course not. I was trying to clean up some old test records." "Then it's not sabotage. As for negligence, Jessica, why were you doing database maintenance when you don't know how to use SQL?" "Because there was nobody else. The IT guy quit, and they needed someone to handle basic maintenance. I thought I could figure it out." "Did you ask for training? Did you research database administration before you started making changes?" Silence. "Jessica, I'm trying to help you here, but I need you to be honest. Did you just start clicking buttons and hope for the best?" I watched a YouTube video." I closed my eyes and counted to 10. "You watched a YouTube video and then decided you were qualified to perform maintenance on a production database containing 5 years of customer data?" It seemed simple. The video made it look easy. "Jessica, that's like watching a YouTube video about heart surgery and then offering to operate on someone. Databases aren't toys. They're complex systems that require expertise to maintain safely." She was crying again. "I know that now. But what am I supposed to tell my boss?" "The truth. That you were put in a position you weren't qualified for, that you tried to educate yourself but made a critical error, and that you're working with qualified professionals to fix it." "Will that be enough to save my job?" "I don't know. But it's better than lying or making excuses." We talked for another half hour. I explained exactly what Marcus and I were doing, gave her realistic timelines, and helped her draft an email to her boss explaining the recovery process. By the time we hung up, she seemed calmer. But I wasn't done processing everything that had happened. That night, I sat on my couch with a cup of tea, still wearing my wrist brace and moving carefully because of my ribs, thinking about the past week. A week ago, I'd been lying in a hospital bed feeling abandoned and worthless. Now I was somehow the family hero again, swooping in to save the day. The irony wasn't lost on me. I pulled out my laptop and did something I hadn't done in years. I started writing in a journal. Not a physical one, just a document on my computer where I could get my thoughts straight. Day 7 post-accident, I typed. Jessica's crisis has temporarily made everyone forget that they left me alone in the hospital. But I haven't forgotten. And I don't think I should forget. This whole situation has shown me exactly how my family operates. They ignore me until they need me, then expect me to drop everything and fix their problems. I paused, staring at the screen. Was I being too harsh? Or was I finally seeing clearly? The thing is, I continued typing, I actually like helping people. It's not the helping that bothers me, it's the entitlement. The assumption that I'll always be available, always willing, always capable of solving whatever crisis they've created. And the complete lack of reciprocity when I'm the one who needs help. My phone buzzed with a text from my coworker Mike. How are you feeling? Do you need anything? I stared at that message for a long moment. Mike barely knew me outside of work, yet he'd visited me in the hospital and was still checking on me a week later. Meanwhile, my own family hadn't even bothered to call until they needed something. I'm okay, I texted back. Thanks for checking on me. It means a lot. Anytime. Seriously, if you need groceries or help with anything while you're recovering, just ask. I felt tears prick my eyes. Why was a near stranger showing me more care and consideration than my own family? I went back to my journal. I think I've been enabling them, I wrote. Every time they treat me badly and I just take it, every time I fix their problems without consequences, every time I pretend their behavior doesn't hurt me, I'm teaching them that it's okay to treat me this way. But what if I stopped? What if I started setting boundaries and enforcing them? What if I made them actually face consequences for their actions? The idea was both terrifying and liberating. I'd spent so long trying to earn their love and approval that I'd never considered what would happen if I just stopped trying. My phone rang, interrupting my thoughts. It was my grandmother. Sarah, dear, how are you feeling? I'm healing, Grandma. Slowly but surely. I want you to know that I'm very disappointed in your parents and your sister. What they did, not visiting you in the hospital, it's inexcusable. I felt the surge of validation. My grandmother had always been the family's moral compass. Thank you for saying that, Grandma. I was starting to think maybe I was overreacting. You're not overreacting, sweetheart. Family is supposed to show up for each other, especially during medical emergencies. The fact that they prioritized a dinner party over their daughter's well-being. Well, it speaks poorly of their character. We talked for another 20 minutes. My grandmother told me stories about my grandfather, about how he'd driven through a blizzard to be with her when she had emergency surgery, about how they'd always prioritized family over social obligations. Your generation seems to have forgotten what really matters, she said sadly. But you haven't, Sarah. You dropped everything to help your sister, even after how she treated you. That shows real character. After we hung up, I felt more resolved in my decision to set boundaries. My grandmother was right, I hadn't forgotten what family meant. But that also meant I deserved to be treated like family, not like an on-call tech support service. That evening, I got a call from an unknown number. Is this Sarah Chen? Yes, who's this? My name is David Morrison. I'm the CEO of Morrison Industries. I believe you're working on recovering our database? Morrison Industries. That was Jessica's company. I'd heard the name before but hadn't made the connection until now. I'm assisting with the recovery, yes. I understand you're doing this as a favor for your sister? That's correct. Ms. Chen, I've reviewed your credentials and the technical report you provided. I'm impressed by your approach to this problem. I'm also impressed that you're willing to do emergency recovery work for free to help a family member. Thank you, Mr. Morrison. I want to make something clear. Regardless of the outcome of this situation with your sister, I'd like to discuss a consulting relationship with you. We're in desperate need of someone with your expertise. This was unexpected. I appreciate that, Mr. Morrison, but I'm not looking to change jobs right now. I'm not talking about a job. I'm talking about retaining you as our emergency IT consultant. After seeing what one untrained person could do to our systems, I realize we need professional backup. What about Jessica? That's a separate matter. Your sister made a serious error in judgment, but she's also the one who was honest about the problem and brought in qualified help to fix it. That counts for something. We talked for another 20 minutes. David Morrison was clearly a sharp businessman who understood the value of having the right expertise available when you needed it. By the end of the call, We tentatively agreed to a consulting arrangement that would pay me more in a month than I currently made in 6. When I told Marcus about the call, he laughed. So your sister's screw-up might end up being the best thing that ever happened to your career? Looks that way. Funny how things work out. Are you going to tell your family about the consulting offer? I thought about that. Eventually. But right now, they need to focus on the lesson about consequences and accountability. The fact that this might work out well for me doesn't change the fact that Jessica nearly destroyed a company through carelessness. Fair point. Speaking of which, I've got good news. I managed to recover 94% of the corrupted data. We should have the whole system back online by tomorrow evening. Marcus, you're a miracle worker. Just a guy with too much time and a love of impossible puzzles. But Sarah? Your family owes you more than they probably realize. This kind of recovery work. It's not something just anyone can do. After I hung up, I sat in my apartment thinking about everything that had happened in the past week. A car accident that nearly killed me, a family that abandoned me, a sister who celebrated my absence, and now somehow I was positioned to turn the whole disaster into a career opportunity. Life was weird sometimes. The next day, Marcus and I worked together to bring Jessica's database back online. The recovery was smoother than expected. We managed to restore 96% of the original data and implement a robust backup system that would prevent this kind of catastrophe from happening again. I called Jessica at 6 p.m. to give her the good news. It's done, I said. The database is fully operational, all your customer data is restored, and I've implemented automated daily backups. You should be able to log in normally tomorrow morning. The relief in her voice was palpable. Sarah, I don't know how to thank you. You saved my job, probably my marriage, maybe my whole life. Don't thank me yet. Thank me by learning from this experience. I will, I promise. And I'm going to post that apology tonight. Good. And Jessica? Your boss wants to schedule a meeting with you tomorrow to discuss what happened. Be prepared to explain exactly what went wrong and what you've learned from it. What should I say? The truth. That you were unqualified for the responsibilities you were given, that you should have asked for help sooner, and that you understand the seriousness of what happened. Will that be enough? I don't know. But it's all you can do now. That Thursday night, Jessica posted her public apology on Facebook. It was longer than I'd expected and surprisingly thoughtful. She didn't just apologize for the cruel post, she talked about taking people for granted, about the importance of showing up for family, and about learning to be a better person. The response was immediate. Friends and family members started commenting with their own apologies and reflections on family relationships. Even people I barely knew were sharing stories about times they'd failed to support someone they cared about. My phone started ringing almost immediately. The next morning, Jessica posted her apology on Facebook. It was 3 paragraphs long and actually seemed genuine. She explained what she'd done, why it was wrong, and how she planned to be a better sister. She tagged everyone who had interacted with the original post and asked them to apologize as well. Most of them did. A few tried to defend their actions, but Jessica shut that down quickly. She was fighting for her job, after all. My Aunt Patricia called me that afternoon. Sarah, honey, I had no idea what that post was about. I just thought it was some inside joke between sisters. It's fine, Aunt Pat. But maybe next time, ask before you like something mean about someone you supposedly care about. You're absolutely right. I'm sorry. One by one, they all called. Cousins, family friends, even Jessica's neighbor who had commented with the laughing emoji. Most of them seemed genuinely embarrassed once they understood the context. Jessica's boss was so impressed with the database recovery and the new backup system that he gave her a promotion. She sent me a text, "Thank you. I know I don't deserve your help. I'm going to do better." But here's the thing, I wasn't done. 2 weeks later, when I was finally feeling better, I got a call from my grandmother. "Sarah, dear, your mother told me what happened. I want you to know that I'm ashamed of how they treated you." "Thanks, Grandma. But I also want to tell you something. About why your parents favored Jessica." This was unexpected. "What do you mean?" "Your parents always struggled with your independence. From the time you were little, you never needed them the way Jessica did. Jessica was always running to them with problems, asking for advice, needing their approval. But you figured things out on your own. So they punished me for being self-sufficient? They told themselves you didn't need them. It was easier than admitting they didn't know how to connect with you." "That's not an excuse, Grandma." "No, it's not. but it might help you understand. After I hung up, I realized something. I'd spent years trying to prove I was worthy of their love, but I'd been approaching it all wrong. They didn't value independence, they valued dependence. They loved feeling needed. So I decided to show them exactly what independence looked like. I started small. When Mom called to complain about Dad's snoring, instead of listening sympathetically, I said, "That sounds frustrating. You should talk to him about seeing a doctor." When Dad called to ask me to explain cryptocurrency to him for the third time, I said, "There are some great YouTube videos that explain it better than I can." When Jessica called asking for advice about her kids' school problems, I said, "You're their mom. I'm sure you'll figure out what's best for them." The change was immediate and dramatic. Suddenly, they were calling more often, asking more questions, seeming more interested in my life. When I mentioned I was thinking about buying a house, they offered to help with the down payment, something they'd never done before. "We want to be more involved in your life," Mom said during one of our increasingly frequent phone calls. "I appreciate that," I replied. "But I need you to understand something. I don't want to be involved in your life because you need me. I want to be involved because you want me there." What's the difference? Need is conditional. Want is a choice. It took a few months, but things gradually improved. Jessica and I started having actual conversations instead of just crisis phone calls. Mom and Dad made an effort to visit me, not just expect me to come home. They even attended my company's annual picnic and seemed genuinely proud when my boss praised my work. But the real test came 6 months later, when Jessica called me crying. "Sarah, I made another mistake at work. Not as bad as last time, but I'm scared." "What happened?" "I accidentally sent an email to a client that was meant for my boss. It had some confidential information about pricing strategies." My first instinct was to ask for details, to start problem solving. Instead, I took a breath. "That sounds stressful. What do you think you should do?" I don't know. That's why I'm calling you." "Jessica, you handled the database thing really well. You learned from it, you improved the systems, you even got promoted. You're smarter and more capable than you give yourself credit for. But what if they fire me? Then you'll figure out what comes next. You always do." There was a long pause. "Are you not going to help me?" "I'm helping you right now. I'm helping you realize that you can handle this yourself." "I don't understand." "Jessica, for our entire lives, you've been taught that someone will always rescue you. Mom, Dad, Brad, me. But you're a grown woman with 3 kids, and a successful career. You don't need rescuing." "But what if I mess up?" "Then you'll learn from it and do better next time. That's what adults do." We talked for another hour. I listened, I asked questions, I helped her think through her options. But I didn't solve the problem for her. The next day, she called to tell me she'd handled the situation herself. She'd gone to her boss, explained what happened, and proposed a solution to prevent similar mistakes in the future. Her boss was impressed with her proactive approach. "I can't believe I figured it out myself," she said. "I can. You're more capable than anyone ever gave you credit for. Why didn't you just tell me what to do?" "Because then you never would have learned that you didn't need me to." That's when I knew things had really changed. Not just because Jessica was learning to solve her own problems, but because I was learning to let her. The final piece of my revenge wasn't dramatic or satisfying in the way I'd imagined. It was quiet and gradual and ultimately healing. I didn't destroy my family relationships. I rebuilt them on my terms. I didn't punish my family by cutting them off. I taught them how to treat me with respect. I didn't make them suffer the way they made me suffer. I made them better people. And you know what? They're grateful for it. All of them. Because it turns out that being needed isn't nearly as fulfilling as being wanted, and being dependent isn't nearly as satisfying as being capable. Jessica sent me a card last week. It said, "Thank you for teaching me that I'm stronger than I thought I was." Mom calls me every Sunday now, not because she needs something, but because she wants to hear about my week. Dad asked me to teach him to use Excel so he can help manage the finances for his volunteer work at the food bank. They still favor Jessica sometimes. Old habits die hard. But now when it happens, I don't internalize it as a reflection of my worth. I see it as their limitation, not mine. The best revenge, it turns out, isn't making people pay for hurting you. It's refusing to let them hurt you anymore. And sometimes, if you're very lucky, it's watching them become the people they could have been all along. I still have the screenshots of that Facebook post and a recording from that day at Jessica's house. I keep them as a reminder, not of how they hurt me, but of how far we've all come since then. Because here's the truth about family: you can't choose them, but you can choose how much power you give them over your happiness. And I choose to give them none. Update: a lot of people in the comments are asking if I really think my response was proportional to what Jessica did. Here's my answer: probably not. But proportional wasn't the point. The point was that I'd spent 28 years accepting treatment that I shouldn't have accepted, and I needed to draw a line somewhere. Was it perfect? No. But it worked. And sometimes, imperfect action is better than perfect inaction. My family learned that I have boundaries now. They learned that their behavior has consequences. They learned that taking me for granted isn't an option anymore. Most importantly, I learned that I'm worth fighting for, even if I have to be the one doing the fighting. So no, I don't think I went too far. I think I finally went far enough.